The Bank of America CEO just confirmed in real time that the banks are now panicking. They are absolutely terrified. They can no longer hold it in. They now know that their time is nearing. And what I mean by their time is nearing, I mean their time to finally get behind crypto is running out. And they need to lock in, or else they will officially be locked out. We have here from the Street Roundtable, 4,000 U.S. local banks warn that the key bill could drain $1.3 trillion in deposit flights. No, this is not old news. This is a new article because we've been hearing about this for a while now. All of the big bankers have been telling us that this looming legislation, the Clarity Act, we got to stop this. We got to slow it down. This could drain trillions of dollars in deposits. That's what we keep hearing from these big bankers. And I find it comical because, again, these banks already have all of the ammunition to actually compete. You want to know why they don't want to compete? Because they would have to give up more money to the users. They would have to pay you on your deposits. How crazy is that, right? That's almost like you owning a rental property, but instead of the actual tenant paying you like your, set rate, they give you like 0.3%. You know how angry and upset and frustrated you would be? Yeah, well, guess what? That's exactly what banks do as well. They are utilizing your money that you park in a bank to lend out more and more money, and they just keep promoting the whole idea that, oh yeah, it's covered under the FDIC insurance. Ask anyone that got wiped out during 2008 how good insurance was for them. This is the problem with the banks. They don't want to lend out more money for you. They don't want to match what stablecoins can do. And that's why they are fighting tooth and nail to kill the Clarity Act. We have over here that banks are racing to tokenize deposits as stablecoin threat grows. Oh, wow. Now they want to innovate. Why didn't they innovate for decades prior? Oh, yeah, that's right. There was no pressure put on them. Major banks like Citi, BNY Mellon, and Standard Chartered are reportedly exploring tokenized deposits, putting regular bank money on blockchain to compete with stablecoins. Unlike stablecoins, tokens stay inside the banking system, helping banks stay competitive by protecting deposits and yield from stablecoin issuers. They did this because it's innovate or die season. This is why the banks are terrified. This is why the banks are panicking. Because they know that they have to innovate. It's not a question of when or if. They have to innovate. Or else they will simply be replaced. Or they will simply die out. Over here we have just in, Senator Bernie Moreno says that the banking cartel is in full panic mode over the Crypto Clarity Act. For decades, these banks have treated your deposits like their personal piggy bank, paying you next to nothing while lending your money out for massive profits and executive bonuses. Now that innovative stablecoins threaten to break their monopoly and give you actual financial freedom, they're running to Congress again, screaming about threats to economic growth and financial stability. And yes, this is true. We are seeing that same banking cartel panicked over what could happen with stablecoins. They're not panicked that it's going to lead to a deposit flight. They're panicked because they don't want to pay more money out on your money. They are holding your deposits and kicking back a small piece of the pie, breadcrumbs, if you will, while they are eating the entire loaf. And that's just simply not fair. But that's exactly why they're trying to fight back against something that could possibly lead to people saying, you know what, I'm done with these bankers trying to give me absolutely nothing on my money when I could park it in a stablecoin and earn 5+%. We have over here that the latest move, America's banking giants move to challenge stablecoins. They're all launching that tokenized deposit network because, again, this was back in March. This is June 4th. They're launching the tokenized deposit network amid rising competition from stablecoins. The network will link traditional banking infrastructure with blockchain technology via the clearinghouse, the real-time payments company jointly owned by the largest U.S. banks. And what's crazy about this is even Japan is starting to do something like this. Their largest banks are starting to move in on jointly issuing stablecoins by 2027 because, again, they have to compete now. They're concerned that they might fall behind. Everywhere we look, even outside of the US, the banks are acting fast. They're acting faster than ever before because they know that they are on the cusp of having a major shift happen to them. Now, we turn to Bank of America. Because again, like if we think about Bank of America, they're already tied back to the tokenized deposit network. Even originally, they were tied back to the tokenized deposits as well. I know that the only banks named here are Citi, BNY Mellon, and Standard Chartered, but we know that Bank of America has been really tapped in with stablecoins for a while. Even back in the beginning of 2025, they said that if regulators would allow it, that they would actually start to accept crypto payments in a big way. But now we have a little bit of a new update. And we have here Bank of America admits it. Bank of America CEO says that stablecoins could hurt traditional banks. This is Brian Monahan, and he is saying that when moving money takes seconds and costs almost nothing, the old banking model starts to crack. That's exactly what crypto was made for. But, you know, when we think about these banks, like, yeah, they can't keep up. They have to innovate or die. And check out this video clip. This is a very recent video clip from Fox. Check it out.
The scale, we're actually smaller than the name brand banks in the other countries. And so, but the beauty of the American system, it's a system that has all kinds of participants. And so local community banks, large banks, mid-sized banks, regional banks, et cetera. And so that served pretty well. And we ought to always take care before we disrupt it. So our concerns in this is largely about the small and medium-sized banks because at the end of the day, they need these funds to make the loans. We'll be okay, but they need to fund.
So, yeah, when we think about what's happening here, you know, the main thing that we look at is like, what's the next phase here? Are banks going to adopt a new strategy? Are they going to tap into these new, you know, systems? Are they going to adopt stablecoins? The main thing that they're focused on are the medium-sized banks because they know that the government will bail them out regardless of what happens if they're like the big banks. But they're concerned about the medium-sized banks and the smaller banks. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what they're worried about and concerned about. They're also concerned about themselves. You want to know how I know? Because JP Morgan let it slip. Back in the end of May, we have here JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon says that we will fight the Clarity Act. If we lose, we lose and we'll live, but it will be fought. Check it out.
So are you happy with the way the Clarity Act is turning out?
No, because it allows them to effectively pay interest on deposits, stable coins or something like that without the...
And that's the big issue. He's going to say that it's because they're not regulated as banks, but his main concern is that these major stablecoin players are paying out on, you know, the stablecoin deposits that they are getting. And he hates that because he could say that it's because they're not regulated like banks all he wants, but it's mainly because they're paying a significant amount more than what the banks are willing to pay out to their customers. But check it out.
Protection that they should have, and it doesn't do anything for AML BSA. It has almost no legal protections. So no, the banks will not accept it that way. And the ABA, the small banks, the credit unions, it's not just the big guys. I'm not worried about stablecoin, but if it happened, I'm telling you, I would have nothing to do with it, and it would eventually blow up on its own. Okay, but that's my personal thing. But I do understand the concern of all the other banks. So,
well, the markup is coming. I mean, what are you going to do about it?
It is. We'll fight it. If we lose, we lose, and we'll live.
Yeah. Okay.
But it will be fought. This will not be. No one's going to bow down to this guy, okay, or that company. And he's the only one.
Yeah.
And he's spending hundreds of millions of dollars in Washington this thing.
He said he's representing the whole
He's
industry.
full of shit.
Well, we're going to.
So yeah, it's a Coinbase problem. That's what we were hearing back in the end of, May, but we already know that that's ridiculous. But the latest update is that Jamie Dimon is saying that stablecoins are paying yield, should be regulated like banks. If you're going to be holding balances and paying interest, that's a bank. You should be regulated like a bank. They just don't want to compete. They don't want to compete. We have over here from Dom Kwok. He said that before crypto, I worked at some of the top firms on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, Blackstone. And from speaking to many of my ex-colleagues on Wall Street, I can confidently say that the big banks have never been more scared of crypto eating their lunch. In fact, they're so scared that JP Morgan, Citi, and others are planning to launch their own tokenized deposit network to compete with crypto. But if you like crypto, you won't like the bank's alternative. In fact, you'll want to steer well clear. And here's why. With their network, you won't own your money. If the bank fails or faces a run, you lose your tokens just how you would with your fiat. The main beauty of crypto is that you hold your private keys, so you are fully in control of your own money. No one can freeze it. It's a permission-closed network. Access to their network still requires the bank's permission, unlike public blockchains, which are permissionless and let anyone participate. Run by the banks who've been campaigning against crypto. Their network will be run by the clearinghouse payments company owned by JP Morgan, Citi, Bank of America, and other big banks. Do you really think they have the consumer's best interest at heart? No privacy or transparency. The beauty of crypto is that you can make transactions without a middleman, and no one can freeze your funds. However, every transaction on the bank's network will be subject to their oversight and must fall within their KYC and AML processes. This means governments and banks can still freeze your funds for whatever reason they want. Designed to keep the banks in full control. They want a system that will let them keep their fees and revenue model. Stablecoins threaten to put or pull billions in deposits away from the banks. This is their last-ditch attempt to stop that. It also limits DeFi innovation. By controlling their own permission blockchain, banks prevent users from using blockchain protocols that could allow them to get higher yields, etc. One of the main attractions of DeFi for many users. And that's the main thing. They want to limit your reach on higher yields because they want to keep giving you out practically nothing on your money. That's why there's such a big uproar on the idea of, stablecoin issuers being able to offer yield. That's why yield has always been a problem. And I've talked about it on many occasions. I talked about it even back in 2023 when DeFi was being targeted with Gary Gensler. I said the main reason why we're seeing this major target is because of the yield generation. The yield opportunity is the concern. It's the problem. It's the end all be all concern from the big banks. Because they know that if stablecoin issuers are able to pay out yield, they will be forced to have to pay out equal or more yield to compete. And that's what keeps them up at night. That's what's causing the bankers to panic. That's what's causing 4,000 local banks warning that the Clarity Act could drain $1.3 trillion in deposits. It is comical to me that this is still ongoing. It is comical to me that the bankers still don't want to bend a knee. They want to utilize all of their connections back to Congress, back to their politicians that they are, donating to, and they want them to stop this bill. And it's so comical to me that this is the clearest fact on why crypto has already won. All we have to do is wait for things to align, and every single bank will soon bend a knee. Every bank right now is starting to look at tokenization. They're launching tokenized deposit networks. They're looking at tokenized deposits. They're looking at stablecoins. They're trying to compete. They're trying their best to compete. But just like Dom is outlining here, I don't think that banks will win in the end. I think people that are aware of crypto, that will study crypto, that will understand crypto, are going to shift their focus beyond what the banks are doing, beyond what the banks will ever do, because they want total control of their money. They want to make sure that they are their own bank. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord from below. And with that being said, guys, from Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.